This is one of those weekends when you look at the college football slate and you just say, yeah, this is exactly how I remember it when I was walking through those cold months of March, and then we got a little taste in April of spring football. Like these are the kind of weekends that sustained us to get us to this point of the beautiful thing that is week 5 of the college football season. It is Tuesday, September 24th, 2024, the last one on the face of the planet. Another phenomenal Prediction Tuesday on deck, man. We got a ton of good games to get into. Yes, Georgia, Alabama, that's the headliner. That is going to be the movie of the weekend, but you also got a little pulse check out there. Auburn, Alabama. Had someone yesterday say, you're really excited about that game? Yeah, college football sickos, we're dialed into Oklahoma at Auburn. That'll be a real fun one. Freaky Friday, too. Virginia Tech going to Miami. If last Friday is any indicator of how Friday nights are going to go the rest of this college football season, we would be wise to pay very close attention to Virginia Tech and Miami. Now, the spread right around a 3-score look towards the Canes, but I'm just saying now, this game, a little rivalry factor baked in there when it comes to the history around that game. It'll be a lot of fun one now. Be a good test for Cam Ward and company. Southwest Classic also going down in Jerry World. You got Texas A&M, you got Arkansas. Who would have thought, man? Who would have thought Arkansas be sitting here with one loss? Really, they should be undefeated if you watch the Oklahoma State game. Taylor Green and company are rolling right now. Do they keep it rolling? Also, who the heck is playing quarterback for A&M? We'll discuss that, give you our pick in that one. And then at the end of the show, going to give you our pick when it comes to Notre Dame and Louisville. That's right, not Louisville, Louisville, for the folks out there in Kentucky that pronounce that the correct way. Notre Dame, man, they've looked a little bit sloppy. Little lackluster, still one of the most talented rosters in college football, I think you could say. But even with that being the case, Louisville beat them last year in Louisville. Do we repeat this year in South Bend? We'll talk about it here a little bit later and give you our pick, man. So glad to have y'all here. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, would love to have you a part of this. I say it every single Prediction Tuesday because that's when we get the most traffic on this very live show. But we don't traffic in the hot takes or the clickbait. There's no game that's too small for us to care about. Again, this is college football sickos now. There was a time now where your boy was working an 8-to-5 office job doing healthcare recruiting, and it was great. It was good for me, paid the bills, worked for great people. But when I was doing that job now, I was dialed into podcasts just like this one, YouTube shows just like this one. So I promise you, we come from the college football sicko kind of lifestyle. Grateful someone put a mic in front of us. And so we talk about college football for a living the way that you want it talked about, the way that we want it talked about back when we were doing that 8-to-5 hustle. So grateful now to have the 8-to-5 hustle we do. But I'm just saying now, we are very much so college football sickos by college football sickos is the way this show gets down. So subscribe to the channel. Also subscribe on the podcast feed. Hard count, or type in the hard count with JD Pickell. You'll find us on Apple and on Spotify. We appreciate you for doing that. If you're new, we start every single Tuesday live show. Our first live show back from the week that was. We take accountability. All right, that's how every great team I've been a part of did things. The day after the game, the first practice after the game, you come back, and for where you missed, you do your up-downs, you run your sprints, whatever it was, you take accountability. So we're going to do that right now. Hits and misses. Y'all, we missed on Michigan. My thought process going into the game was, hey, USC got some horses on the perimeter. It's still a Lincoln Riley offense. I think that defense has improved substantially, and they have improved substantially, but here's the deal, man. Michigan was just throwing heaters all day long. And throwing is probably the wrong word because they only threw for 32 yards, but they ran for darn near 300, bullied their way to a dub in Ann Arbor. We missed on that one. You'll notice now, I don't have Crow next to me. There's been a discussion in the comment section from y'all saying you would like a different tasting Crow. So we'll have that for you next week. Got something cooked up. And by popular demand, we will have a different level of Crow. Now, we hit on this one, man. That Tennessee front seven, they're for real. I know it was Kent State and Chattanooga and NC State who really, thus far into 2024 has not looked impressive at all. They showed out in Norman, Oklahoma. 11 tackles for a loss, 3 sacks, allowed 36 yards rushing. There's a clip that's circulating around Twitter this morning of Josh Heupel talking to Nico Iamaleava after the game. He's saying, hey, I pulled back a tad because our defense was playing so well. When was the last time Josh Heupel pulled back a tad in anything in life? I don't think I've seen that from him to this point as a head coach. The fact that you can pull back and feel good about your defense on the road, That's a major luxury, especially when Nico Iamaleava is still gaining his sea legs, still getting acclimated as the guy out there in Knoxville. So the point being, the hit that we had here, that Tennessee front seven, I believe, is the missing ingredient to ultimately make them an SEC title contender and will make them a college football playoff team in 2024. Y'all, we missed on Auburn. Auburn's got some real problems. They switched quarterbacks, went to Hank Brown. He got a start against, I believe it was New Mexico, and then you throw him in there against Arkansas to get his first start against the SEC, and it was more of the same. And so now the common denominator is quarterback play for Hugh Freeze in 2024. Is that a Hugh Freeze problem? Is this just freakish things happening for Auburn where they have the turnover bug? I don't know. And I sat here on Sunday morning during a reaction show, and I was like, y'all, if I had a strong take as to how to fix this thing, I would promise I would give it to you. I would not hold back. I don't know what the issue is here. The toxic fan in you, or toxic fan in me, I suppose, would be like, hey, if this is what we have in the quarterback room, at this point, I think Hank Brown has the potential to be really good. I think the fact that he won that QB2 job says a lot about what he will be long-term in Auburn. But you look at where you are this year, it's supposed to be the trajectory you're going forward, like, feels like the transfer portal, again, hindsight's 2020, but transfer portal maybe would have been the move there. Jarring with what they have on paper. Not to dunk on Auburn too much here. We'll predict the Oklahoma game later in the show. A little bit jarring with what they have on that roster and not able to maximize it. So we'll see. Maybe a get-back-right kind of opportunity against Oklahoma, but that defense is a top 10 unit in America. So we'll give you our prediction on that game a little bit later in this live show. Last hit from the weekend, Utah, man, they are still that team. Switched conferences. I understand now they went from the Pac-12, and the Pac-12, I guess, rest in peace, but also good to see you again kind of situation with them. But Utah goes to the Big 12. They play one of the premier teams in the Big 12 in Oklahoma State. They play them at their place. And, oh, by the way, no Cam Rising. Didn't matter. Utah, with a freshman quarterback and Isaac Wilson, rolls in there, gets it done. Kansas State, they lost. We have question marks around what Arizona's going to be. Oklahoma State was the team you were probably trying to get a gauge for Utah against them, and they beat them with a backup quarterback in their place. Like, a lot of ball to be played now, but you look around the conference, you say, okay, Utah, they are still that team. They are still the big dog in college football, and they're the big dog in their new conference. Last thing I'll say here, I mentioned Kansas State. Y'all, can we stop promising to do just egregious things if our team loses? Like from 3-2-1 Noel to my guy talking about what he's going to do with a certain burrito from Taco Bell if Kansas State loses and then Kansas State lost. Like, we got to stop. What's the payoff? Like a little social media clout? If you can even call it some attempt. Like, I'm just saying now, I think maybe we should rethink what we are willing or not willing to do when it comes to our team losing. The thing to me, like, there's not even if they win, I'll do X, or if they win, I get X. Like, I don't know how that would work, but I'm just saying this to me feels like a very lose-lose situation. So just a word of caution to all the good folks out there considering doing certain things when it comes to their team losing or not losing, I suppose. So hits and misses from week 4 of the college football season are all accounted for. We appreciate y'all for that. Hey, Freaky Friday action, man. You got Virginia Tech minus 18.5. Or excuse me, Miami minus 18.5 over Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech going to Miami. Miami's rolling right now. But again, Friday night, a little bit of, like I said, a little bit of Freaky Friday night magic. We saw Illinois go to Lincoln, Nebraska last Friday. Get a dub. Saw Syracuse last Friday. Tough loss at the crib. I'm just saying, Friday night, all bets are off. It is scientifically proven weird things happen on Friday nights when you play a college football game. But again, Miami, they're rolling right now. There's a reason why they are 18.5-point favorites in this game. The question I have for them, everything has been as advertised to this point. The Florida game got the hype train rolling. Haven't really played anybody since then. This week now, short week. Can you be businesslike on a different routine with a now ramped up level of competition that you're going to play? Because Virginia Tech, I mean, we'll see what Florida is long-term here. That's a whole other discussion, but not inspiring a lot of confidence. So you take that win, which I think is still impressive. You got it in the swamp, and you got Ball State, you got FAMU, and you're like, okay, USF, okay, you'll take it. But now you're playing an ACC opponent, and Virginia Tech, man, they are a lot better than I think their record indicates. Right now they're 2-2. Both their losses are by 3 points. One is in overtime to a Vanderbilt team that I think is actually going to be halfway decent this season. lost 3-point game to Rutgers. Like, if you want to kind of turn the tide on your season, turn the tide on your hopes to compete for an ACC championship, go beat a top 10 team on the road, on national television. Because Virginia Tech, we kept talking about all the returning production they have and the continuity they have and the way they finished last year. Haven't seen it really come to fruition and be the product we wanted them to be going into the season. This can change the entire narrative, the entire optics around Brent Pry's program out there. Again, 2 losses by 3 points each. If you're overlooking Virginia Tech, I think you're doing yourself a massive, massive disservice. Now, Miami offensively this year, man, they've had it all working, brother. All of it. I mean, they're averaging 51 points a game. They've been fairly balanced. They're about 55% pass, 45% run. I think a lot of that is just who Shannon Dawson wants to be, has that air raid background, but at the same time, man, they want to run the football. May have to do that a little bit more in this game. Virginia Tech has a pretty solid pass defense, only allowing 160 yards a game through the air. Now, they haven't seen Cam Ward just yet, but I would think we'd be a little bit irresponsible to just ignore the fact that this will likely be the best secondary Miami has seen to this point in the season. On top of that, Va Tech, 11% sack rate on the year, top 5 in college football. So obviously, if you want to have a chance to win this game, if you're Virginia Tech, you got to find a way to rattle Cam Ward. Much easier said than done, because our nickname for him on this show is Cameron Heart Rate Resting Ward. It is what it is. I think for this game now, Miami may have to be a little bit more multiple. And again, with it being Friday night, we'll have to be locked in from the jump. Because if you give Virginia Tech a little bit of reason to believe, I think the continuity on this roster and who they have at quarterback will kind of have that wildfire effect. It'll start to spread. It'll start to get hot quickly, and things could get very, very interesting on a Friday night. Maybe you're out with the wife. Maybe you're out with your friends. Maybe you're doing something else, a game night, whatever you're doing. Check the phone. You say, oh, shoot, I forgot Va Tech plays tonight against Miami, and then you see it being a 3-point game in the fourth quarter. Just saying, it could go that way, all right? Now, if it is going to go that way, how would Va Tech get it done? Because 18.5 points, man, there's skyscrapers in Vegas for a reason in the middle of the desert. We say it a lot on this show. Now, we're doing our part here over on my Instagram page to try and take some of that money back for us if you follow our gambling content. But, again, the point remains the same. How would Va Tech get it done? I said it already. Got to affect Cam Ward. That is the end-all, be-all. If you can't get to Cam Ward and he just plays darts back there, just, I mean, that's going to be the end of it, all right? That's going to be a very, very long day for the folks in Blacksburg, Virginia. I think this is also the game where you need to kind of take the air out of the football. Because as much as you can maybe try to impact Cam Ward, I think it's only a matter of time before he gets his to some degree. Now, does he get his after you're up 10 points, after you've taken the ball for most of the first half? Or is it he gets his when it's a dead-even game going into the second quarter and then they kind of pull away? I think you need this to be the Kyron Drones kind of game for you. Kyron Drones, quarterback that I think really flew under the radar nationally this offseason. Big body, hard runner, good arm, but I think for him, like, his role in this game will be to dictate terms on the ground when you have an extra blocker in those quarterback design runs, and then also you drop back, you don't see anything out there in the RPO game, whatever it looks like, take off, get you 7, get you 6, whatever it is, extend the play, get a first down, keep the offense moving. That second play for Virginia Tech could be the differentiating factor for them finding a way to get it done in some freaky Friday action. So here's my problem. When it comes to this game, the path for Virginia Tech, with it being, 18.5-point dog on the road, pretty narrow. And with it being so narrow, I think that there's only really one kind of game that Virginia Tech can win. I think Miami has a very multiple approach this year. Because Cam Ward's getting a lot of love, and he should, man. Like, what he's doing right now on the football field, if you keep up with our Heisman Trophy pulse over on the On3 socials. Follow us on Instagram and on Twitter over at On3, the main pages, that is. You can see like our Heisman rankings. Cam Ward's been number 1 for me this past week, and he's been in that top 3 for the majority of, if not every single week to this point, I believe. If they take him away, even if they do put a lid on the pass game and they say, okay, you got to beat us underneath, you got to beat us running the football. Marta Cristobal has at this point now built a team that can play that way. Like they've got the trench warfare they can play. They've got a running back in Damian Martinez who can carry the mail for you. And I think Miami has a way to, if they are forced to, win this game ugly. Also, what I mentioned, the underneath pass game, Xavier Restrepo, I mean, underneath pass game is pretty much his middle name. Like, he's able to find the soft spot in the zone, get north and south. I don't see a way where Virginia Tech goes 4 quarters and is able to keep this offense down, or at least overwhelmingly out-physical the Miami offense if it ends up being that kind of a game. So, I like Miami to win. With it being Friday night, this will not be on our Against the Suits best bets over on my Instagram page at JD Piquel. This will not be one that we touch. I like Vatek to cover in this one. So 18.5 Friday night, short week. Miami hasn't played anybody in a minute. Virginia Tech's been in some dogfights. I'll take Miami to win 34-20. So again, Miami wins, Virginia Tech covers when it comes to the Friday night action. Friday night college football games, man, have been a gift that just continues to give so far this season. Really, really high entertainment value. Speaking of high entertainment value, man, we got Oklahoma and Auburn set to get after it. Before we give you that prediction, I want to make sure we give a quick word to our folks over at Prize Picks. If you've been tailing us on Prize Picks, we've had a lot of success until this past week. Okay, we dropped the ball a little bit here. We had Jackson Arnold less than on his pass yards. We had Nico Iamaleava more than on his rush yards. Paired that with the Caleb Williams free square all September long, more than a half passing yard. I mean, it's a free square, just a gift from the folks over at Prize Picks. Jackson Arnold, obviously his number hit with him not playing the second half. Nico Iamaleava, I thought his legs would be involved a little bit more in the game plan. They weren't. It was a pretty heavy dose of Dylan Sampson and then also play great defense. So it went how it went. If you want to tail us this week, make sure you're, one, subscribed to the channel, but use code HARDCOUNT at prizepicks.com. I mean, it's just giving away promo funds. When you play $5 in lineups, and we'll have a lineup for you throughout this week on this show, so make sure you're subscribed. When you play $5 in lineups using code HARDCOUNT, $50 in promo funds. So, great way to support the show. Great way to let the people at Prize Picks know that we are very much so dialed into the nth degree every single college football Saturday. We appreciate y'all using that code, and we appreciate Prize Picks helping us squeeze the life out of this college football season. All right? So, as I was saying, we got Oklahoma going to Auburn, Alabama. 3:30 Eastern, ABC, Jordan Hare. This will be, I think this atmosphere is going to be electric. And I understand Oklahoma looked a little bit lackluster against Tennessee. Auburn has been extremely lackluster to this point in the season against Power 4 conference opponents. This one has college football sickos written all over it. I mean, this is a major pulse check game for both sides. Auburn, all kinds of alerts going off on the car. Like, you know, whenever you're driving your car and you see the check engine light come on, you drive it for a little bit longer and hope that light goes off. That was kind of what Auburn did with the whole Peyton Thorne situation. Switch to Hank Brown. Okay, hopefully the check engine light goes away. But instead you had the change the oil light come on. You had the low tire pressure alert come on. Like, there's a bunch of alerts going on right now within the Auburn vehicle. We'll see who's playing quarterback for them this week. Hugh Freeze said in his press conference yesterday, quarterback's going to battle it out. I would expect we won't know anything until, at the earliest Thursday. But if I'm using the metric of what happened with the last quarterback change as our litmus test, probably not till Friday-ish. Whoever plays quarterback, they need to find a way to just take care of the football. I mean, that really is the end-all, be-all. 4 interceptions against Arkansas, not even counting the running back coughing it up against Arkansas, right, running into the end zone. I mean, darn near within the 5-yard line. Coughs it up. That changed the entire game. The frustrating thing for Auburn is it's hard to make this case, but there are plays to be made there. Like, Auburn averaged 6 yards a carry against Arkansas. There's plays to be made there, but you give the football away like Halloween candy, and you're not going to win the football game. You need this one to flip momentum if you're Auburn. Need it to flip momentum. This has a very last stand kind of vibe to it if you're the Tigers. Not saying that you mail in the season if you lose this one. I'm not saying that at all, but I am saying if this is your trajectory year, you got to find a way to start trajectory going a certain direction, because you haven't had that yet with the Cal loss and the Arkansas loss being as ugly as they are. Now, speaking of ugly, man, Oklahoma last week against Tennessee, the first half was ugly. I mean, 3 turnovers. There's a reason why you went to Michael Hawkins Jr. at quarterback over Jackson Arnold. And I want to make sure we're clear on this. I think that Jackson Arnold is probably still a really good quarterback. And if you disagree with that, I would say based on what? You'd say the 4 games you saw or whatever it was. Say 4 games, okay, that's what you're basing it off of? I mean, the start to the 2024 season is your hill you are willing to die and say, I've seen enough, he's not our guy. He can't play the position. I would say, okay, you're entitled to your opinion. To me, I'm looking at the offensive line and I'm like, man, you don't have what you need around him. And that was always the thing for us going into this season was when you look at Oklahoma, the context is so crucial for them. I love the skill players, even though they're dinged up. I like Jackson Arnold, but you got 1.5 Mississippis back there to make a good decision with the football. You give anybody 1.5 Mississippis to play quarterback, they're not going to thrive. And we've seen that now with Jackson Arnold. So making the switch to Michael Hawkins Jr., if you put him in a pro day setting with Jackson Arnold would probably look better, my opinion. However, with what you don't have up front, Michael Hawkins provides a lot more electricity with his legs, can cover up some of those holes, and showed it against Tennessee in the second half of that game. Dude's a freaking warrior. So how do they look now with a little bit more tape on young Michael Hawkins Jr.? Is that something Auburn's able to take advantage of? Remains to be seen. But you do not want to lose straight, or lose 2 straight, rather, staring down the barrel of Texas, South Carolina, then at Ole Miss. Not really a way that you want to live if you're Oklahoma. So this is the kind of game now where you try and flip the script, get things headed the right direction again, go with Michael Hawkins Jr., new offense, and we'll see how that rolls. Now, speaking of the new offense, I think that when you talk about the game plan for Oklahoma, it's got to be a lot of playing to Michael Hawkins Jr.'s strengths because he's a different quarterback than Jackson Arnold. That's why you're rolling with him. And I actually didn't hate the game plan as much heat as Seth Littrell got after the Tennessee game. You got to blame somebody, so you blame the OC and you blame the quarterback. But I would expect it to be similar in the sense that I think they get Michael Hawkins on the perimeter a lot and try to create 2-on-1 situations with defenders. Meaning you want Michael Hawkins out on the edge and you want an overhang defender, whether it be a linebacker, a safety, a corner, and then a guy ideally behind that defender to put that defender in conflict. And Michael Hawkins Jr. now, the way that he can scoot, again, I think is going to make up for a lot of the issues they've shown on the offensive line to this point in the year. It is what it is. Your wide receiver room is banged up. You're breaking in 5 new players on the offensive line going into this season. Like, it's the brutal, unforgiving world that is college football, and even more specifically, the brutal, unforgiving world that is the SEC. Now, I think the advantage for Auburn here is you're playing a quarterback that is similar to the skill set that you just played against the week before in Taylon Green. And Taylon Green took a beating. There's no way around that. Like, I was impressed by the way that he just took shot after shot after shot. He was only sacked 3 times, but still took what felt like in the neighborhood of double-digit hits and kept coming back for more. The tenacious defense from Auburn, I think, is actually in good position with playing Michael Hawkins Jr. So if it's me, again, going back to Seth Littrell, I want to give Michael Hawkins Jr. simple answers offensively. I want quick game. I want RPO. I want quarterback run. I want to make it as simplistic as possible because Jordan Hare will be on fire. I mentioned that last stand vibe. That crowd knows it too. They know he's a true freshman quarterback rolling in. All right, so they're going to make sure they give him all that and then some. Now Auburn, offensively, I'm expecting a lot of what Hugh Freeze mentioned in his press conference to start the week. Again, I don't know who's playing quarterback, but the quarterback, whoever it is, their decisions the last couple of weeks have hurt us as an offense. Sounds harsh, but pretty true. Side note, a lot of people saying Hugh Freeze throwing his quarterbacks under the bus. Sounds like he's just saying we need more from our quarterbacks. Does anybody with 2 sets of, or with a set, I guess, 2 eyeballs disagree with Hugh Freeze? I don't think so, and they shouldn't. It is worth noting they have been pretty effective running the football. Even in their losses, man, they're averaging right around 4.5 yards a carry between the Cal and Arkansas game. I think it's a heavy dose of run. I think it's a heavy dose of RPO. I'd be wildly surprised if we saw Auburn make this a game where their quarterback has taken a 3-step drop a handful of times. I really think it'll be run, run, run. When they overcommit, get some pass game going, but it's going to be a very simplistic game plan when it comes to this one. Now, if you're Auburn, you need the Hugh Freeze special, man. You need that special sauce. You need the reason as to why he is a head coach in college football, what he does offensively to show itself in this spot. And you know what I'm talking about. You're thinking back to the game against Georgia last year. I mean, they had Georgia's number, man. Dialed up the perimeter run game. They had window dressing. They had Georgia running every which way. Same deal with Alabama. In both those games, he had Peyton Thorne throwing for less than 100 yards and still found a way to, quite frankly, should have won the Alabama game and then be within a touchdown of the Georgia game. So the bottom line here is you need the Hugh Freeze special sauce in this game. Pretty much goes without saying, but when you're playing a top 10 defense, feels like that needs to be addressed. So when you predict this game, man, which is harder for you to believe? Is it harder to buy into the idea that a true freshman quarterback can roll into Jordan-Hare and play well enough to beat Auburn in his first start? Be a little bit hard for me to get on board with. At the exact same time, is it more difficult to believe that this Auburn offense is going to have a get-right kind of game and look different than they did against Cal and Arkansas, against a top 10, savvy, salty, complex defense in Oklahoma? Again, you got to factor in the Hugh Freeze potential special sauce scenario, which definitely could show itself. But I think the off-script plays from Michael Hawkins Jr., where the play breaks down, Auburn brings a blitz, looks like it's getting home, Hawkins gets out of trouble, scrambles for 7 yards. It was 3rd and 5. He gets a first down. I think those are the back-breaking plays in a low-scoring game that allows Oklahoma to escape with a dub. So, again, I think it's close. I think it's going to be a great game. Saw some pushback on Twitter, but I think it's going to be a great game, man. I got Oklahoma winning this game 24-21. So, by that logic, with the line being at 2.5 at the time of us being live, we're taking Oklahoma to win, and we're taking Oklahoma to cover. So, Oklahoma kind of saves some momentum, again, kind of flips the script heading into the meat of their schedule. And Auburn, you're hopefully having a little bit more to build upon offensively, hopefully not turning it over north of 3 times. But it's going to be a little bit uncomfortable this week, without question. Major pulse check kind of game for both sides there. All right, quick sip of caffeine, man, because this is going to be, I mean, this is the one now. This is the one that if you're tuned into this live show, this is the prediction more likely than not that you came for. So, 1 second here. We got some juice to bring some juice. Here we go. Georgia, -2.5, heading to Tuscaloosa, Alabama to play the brand new Crimson Tide under Kalen DeBoer, 7:30 Eastern, ABC, Bryant-Denny Stadium. This is what you sign up for. Both as a college football fan, when you get introduced to this sport, it's games like this that grab your attention, that put you down in the seat and say, this is why you fall in love with college football. Matchups like this, brands like this, heck, head coaches like this. And then if you're committing to either Alabama or Georgia out of high school, you go there to play in games like this. College game day, prime time, Herb Street and foul. Like this is the movie of the weekend. A lot of good games on the slate, but this is the movie of the weekend. For Alabama, man, we've seen the Kalen DeBoer Alabama a few games right now. We've seen them against USF, saw them throttle Wisconsin in Camp Randall. A good test to pass, but who are they? Who is this new Alabama? Because this is the kind of game where if you were a Crimson Tide fan, you had a lot of confidence going in. Yes, because it's at home. Yes, because of the way the past few games against Georgia have gone, but more specifically, because you had the GOAT on the sideline, bro. You had Nick Saban making sure your game plan throughout the week, your focus was right where it needed to be, and you just felt like somehow, some way, he was going to put you in position to win that football game. Nick Saban will be in Tuscaloosa. He will be on the college game day desk. He will not be on the sideline. And so for Kalen DeBoer, I'm fascinated to watch how this Alabama team attacks the moment. It was never a question with Nick Saban teams. I'm not really questioning it so much for Alabama this year, but I am questioning what does it look like? Is that same kind of fire, that same kind of Saban-esque traits still there? With Jalen Milroe as the quarterback and the way they've carried themselves to this point in the year, I think it will be, but we're about to find out. We are about to find out. Now for Georgia on the other side, man, if you are truly that team this year, the team that Vegas says you have the best odds to win the Natty, the team that I told you I think preseason's going to win the national championship, if you are really the big dog in the conference now with Nick Saban gone, this is the game where you prove it. You're on the road. It's the game of the week, national spotlight, all the things that I just mentioned going into this game. This is your stage. Because Alabama has had Georgia's number. Saban has had Kirby's number. Last year in Atlanta, we were there on hand. It felt like everything was favoring Georgia. Yeah, they're a little dinged up, but you felt like Georgia was going to find a way to get it done and get over the hump again against Nick Saban. It did not happen that way. Alabama had them. Now for Georgia, too, we talk about the college football playoff expanding, and I've said this many times, Georgia gets a mulligan. So if they drop this game, they can lose another game and still find a way to make the college football playoff. Same thing for Alabama. But look at Georgia's schedule, man. You drop this game, you're staring down the games at Texas, at Ole Miss. Oh, by the way, you still got to play Tennessee. Like there's a lot of obstacles in your way to getting to where you want to ultimately get to. So this is one that you would like to have in the back pocket to ideally boost your college football playoff resume. And if you're Georgia, you don't even want to worry about your resume. You just want to win the whole darn thing. Starts in this game. Last year, I broke this game down going into conference title weekend. And for me, I'm a big matchups guy, right? Like I believe that college football ultimately is about your matchups from the trenches to the perimeter. It's a matchup sport, okay? The matchups last year, I believe, favored Georgia, even with them being dinged up. And you saw that early on in the game. Georgia had the better team on the line of scrimmage. Georgia had a few plays on the perimeter they could have made and didn't make. But I think even with the matchups favoring a certain team, what was the difference? The difference was the matchup breaker, the logic breaker, that Jalen Milroe throws on the cape. You look under his number 4 jersey, there's an S on his chest, and he's just ultimately the differentiating factor. Is that the case again this year? Because with Jalen Milroe now, I think he's kind of that 2.0 of himself from last season. Last year, he was still figuring out how to be a starting quarterback in the SEC. He was playing in an offense that, quite frankly, didn't even really fit him until halfway through the year. It's very obvious. Kalen DeBoer knows what he has in Jalen Milroe, and they're playing to his skill set. To this point in the year, he has thrown for 2 touchdowns and run for 2 touchdowns in every single game. I don't care what level of football you're playing, SEC or Pop Warner, that is ridiculous. Curious to see how much they use him in the design quarterback run game in this one, because it's early on in the year. You want to save Jalen Milroe, but at the same time, man, like in a game like this, you empty the clip. You leave nothing in the chamber when it comes to the game against Georgia in Tuscaloosa. Seen a lot of empty formations where you call quarterback design power or quarterback design runs. We've seen that. I think in this game now we could see a little bit more of the counters off of that, whether it's a trick play, whether it's quarterback design power to an RPO throw. Like we're going to see, I think, a little bit more of the bag here from Kalen DeBoer and from Jalen Milroe. Going in with that, speaking to his legs. How about the second play? And when I say the second play, you know what I mean. Georgia, they find a way to get through the offensive line of Alabama. They have the right blitz dialed up, whatever it looks like. And then ultimately, Jalen Milroe steps aside, makes a move, bam. Second play has now begun. How does Georgia handle that? Because last year, quite frankly, speaking to Georgia being dinged up a little bit, those linebackers, a little bit inexperienced, a little bit green, Jalen Milroe took advantage of that. I don't believe that'll be the case in this game. I don't believe that they will be as inept when it comes to those moments, but still, being better prepared does not mean you are going to be successful when you're out in the open field with number 4, or when he puts you in 2-for-1 situations with a receiver right behind you or a back right behind you, and you have to find a way to make the right decision in that moment to keep the explosive from happening. So a lot on the Georgia linebackers this week. Smile Munden being the guy that I'm watching most closely here. So we spoke to the game plans a little bit, man. This is going to be an awesome chess game. An awesome chess game. Kalen DeBoer, obviously the mastermind behind the offense at Alabama. You got pretty much a 3-headed monster when it comes to that Georgia defense, from Kirby Smart, Glenn Schumann, T-Rob. Like, it's going to be a movie. I think both, like I mentioned, have been saving some bullets for this game. I'm curious now defensively, as much as we talk about the game plan, like how much just straight-up football does Georgia play in this game? Like, how much man coverage do we see from the Dogs? Because I think the advantage to man coverage here for Georgia is ideally you allow for a lot less catch-and-run scenarios if you're playing the man coverage at the caliber that you would like to play it at. You don't have those soft zone situations where Ryan Williams catches it, gets north and south, and then you're like, gosh dang, man, he made 8 into 28. Like, that's the situation you would like to avoid. But at the same time, when you play man coverage, it's a lot harder to keep tabs on Jalen Milroe back there doing what he does, being Houdini and making plays with his feet. So the thing that I'm curious about is how much they're able to play man coverage and those linebackers and that front seven of Georgia being able to get home against Milroe. Now, in this game, someone we haven't talked about just yet is Carson Beck. And he's had some really good games, to his point, in Georgia. He's had some good games as the guy. Obviously, the Orange Bowl comes to mind where they just throttled Florida State. Florida State rolled their JV team out there, but still, Carson Beck did what he did. He's been the epitome of consistent at Georgia, which I think, quite frankly, is what you've needed at quarterback. You've needed a guy to just make the offense go, to be the cog in the machine that gets the ball to the right place on time, but there's no more Brock Bowers. There's no more Ladd McConkey. In short, I think the game breakers at Georgia, the game breaker in this game I'm looking at should be number 15. Now, you still need Dominique Lovett to get open. You still need a guy like a Colby Young to make his presence felt. You need the run game to get rolling. But I'm saying, like, in this game now, I think this has to be the Carson Beck elevation game where the chips are stacked and maybe Alabama's got you on the ropes a little bit, but Carson Beck just takes over. And I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if it's him making plays off script. I don't know if it's him just placing the football how he does in the vertical game, but, like, this needs to me, be the moment where Carson Beck flexes up and just has the I'm him kind of moment. I think we saw a version of that last year in the SEC title game from Jalen Milroe. I need to see it on the road here from Carson Beck because he is, in large part, I think, if you're a Georgia fan, why you felt so good going into the year about your college football playoff hopes, about your national title hopes, because of 15 back at the controls. I need him to do more than just run the offense. I need him to elevate everyone around him because I think the pass catchers for Georgia are going to be an advantage here against Alabama. I mean, that secondary is good. I think it's young. I think there's going to be plays to be had downfield. Carson Beck, man, I think the margin for error is very, very small. You do not want to give more bullets to Jalen Milroe, especially if you're turning the football over like bad things are happening. This needs to be the I'm him signature game from number 15. So I think there's absolutely a chance here that Kalen DeBoer goes in the bag, pulls out something crazy game plan-wise, and, like, that's just the way you got to live if you're Georgia. And that ends up being the difference. Something that you weren't prepared for gets you out of position. You have the best athlete on the field at quarterback for Alabama, and, like, that might be the difference. However, the thing that I keep coming back to going into this game, both teams off a bye week. Georgia, before the bye week now, went to Kentucky, and everyone was asking after that game, after they won by 1 point in Lexington, golly, like, what's up with Georgia? Golly, Georgia, they did not look very Georgia-esque in that game. Georgia, what's wrong with it? What's the problem? And Kirby Smart now had everyone's attention during that bye week. And I've said this before, there is nobody better in college football that is able to set the gauntlet down before his football team, get everyone focused in after a letdown sort of situation, and then have them bring their best to the table. I think, honestly, that 1 point win over Kentucky is a blessing in disguise. I got Georgia winning this football game. I think Carson Beck elevates. I think Georgia has a little more success running the football than maybe anticipated. Perfect recipe. Perfect recipe if you're Kirby. I think Dogs win 27-24. So by that logic, we got Georgia winning and covering in Tuscaloosa. I want to make sure we get ahead of this too. If that happens, the way that we think it will happen, a lot of folks going to say, man, is Alabama, look at Nick Saban on game day, and now he's not there, and Alabama's not Alabama anymore. Deep breath out. It's not the case. Georgia's really freaking good. And if they beat Georgia, give them all the credit in the world. But if they lose to Georgia, I don't care what the margin is, do not say Alabama's not this or not that. Because right now, everyone is saying how good Alabama is. We're not wrong in Alabama. We just have a cinematic masterpiece about to go down in Tuscaloosa, and I can't freaking wait for that one. Cannot wait for that one. So if you're watching right now, we appreciate y'all that are dialed in. Got a good crowd in there. Yeah, make sure you're subscribed. Subscribe button under your picture that you're watching right now on the YouTube channel. Just a great way to have everybody dialed into the nth degree that's watching right now. And, again, college football sickos, we need all of y'all moving forward into this glorious thing that is the college football season. I see someone in the live chat disagreeing with our take there. Our prediction says, JD, get your snacks ready for next week. We're going to have them. We are going to have them, without a doubt. Whether we're right or wrong, we'll have our new crow ready to roll for next Tuesday's show. All right, let's get to this now. A little bit of caffeine as well, because that one, I mean, we brought some juice in that one, so we got to bring some more juice here. Quick sip of the caffeine. And we're back. All right, Southwest Classic. I'm telling y'all now, Georgia, Alabama, the blockbuster of the entire week, there's a lot of really sneaky good games. We have more predictions coming for you throughout the week on this live show. Another reason to be subscribed. But Arkansas, Texas A&M, the Southwest Classic in Jerry World, 3:30 Eastern, ESPN. Arkansas, to me, feels a lot like that Paul Rudd meme right now. Paul Rudd from Hot Ones, he walks in there, and there's that clip where he says, hey, look at us. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? Not me. And when I say not me, not I. I wouldn't have thought. I think Sam Pittman probably thought. But, like, the way Arkansas is rolling right now, they should be undefeated. All right? If you watched that Oklahoma State game, they were up at Oklahoma State. They were having their way with Oklahoma State. Then Oklahoma State did what good experienced teams do under Mike Gundy at home, found a way to get it done. But, like, Arkansas is not last year's Arkansas. Everyone was talking about Sam Pittman being done at the end of last year, and he's a dead man walking. I'm like, I don't see that. I see Arkansas being a really tough freaking out with Taylor Green at quarterback for him. Now, Texas A&M gaining some steam. All right, gaining some steam. Beat Florida in pretty convincing fashion in the Swamp. Put as much stock into that as you want. Looks really good behind Marcel Reed. Now, there is a report that I saw, unofficial report, an unofficial depth chart that was put out that had Connor Wegman as the starting quarterback for Texas A&M. Now, is that the case? Remains to be seen. That's just the unofficial thing that I saw when it comes to the depth chart. So we'll keep an eye on that. We'll keep a pulse on that. And we'll have a take on the quarterback situation a little bit later in this prediction, because that factors in a pretty massive way. But Marcel Reed, I think, from what he's done so far with his legs, the way he fits in the Colin Klein system, he's been balling. Nashville guy, he's been balling down there at NBA. He's been doing his thing, and I think he gives A&M the best chance to win in this football game, just so we're all on the same page. Now, speaking of dynamic quarterbacks, man, Taylor Green is a nightmare. Like, he's 6'6", runs like a gazelle, and he is a force to be reckoned with whenever he tucks it and runs. And credit Bobby Petrino, because he calls it that way. Like, they're not making Taylor Green do something that he's not comfortable with. There's a lot of RPO. There's a lot of read option. Him and Jaquindon Jackson in the backfield, if that name sounds familiar, running back from Utah, transferred over to Arkansas. He has been eating and eating greedy since showing up in Fayetteville. He's been a dude for him. And so the 1-2 punch they have back there has been dynamic all season long. Jaquindon Jackson has run for over 100 yards in all but one game so far this year for Arkansas. Expect A&M to be pretty aggressive now. If I'm A&M, I saw that Auburn game and I saw them get hit after hit on Taylor Green. I would test it out a little bit. And they forced Taylor Green into some unideal decisions when it came to what he did throwing the football. But, like, at the same time, whenever you risk it for the biscuit, you do risk it, okay? Like A&M, you're going to turn the heat up. Whenever you turn the heat up on the stove, there's always a chance you get burned. And we saw Auburn actually suffer that same fate against Arkansas. Taylor Green drops back, reverses field, looks like Johnny Football out there, delivers a missile down the field, receiver makes a play for him. Something to keep an eye on. A&M against Bowling Green made me a little bit nervous with their discipline on the back end. Bowling Green got a couple of plays where you got a defensive back out of position, and then it's a big play for Bowling Green the other way and kind of allowed them to stay in the game that way. Also, the way they played in space makes me nervous when it comes to trying to tackle a Taylor Green. Now, they got the players to do it, but it's a matter of can they consistently be gap sound, play boring, fundamental football, and find a way to minimize those explosive plays. Because if you allow Taylor Green to run roughshod, things are going to get very, very uncomfortable in Jerry World if you're a Texas A&M fan. Now, I think it's also worth noting the way that Texas A&M played against Riley Leonard. It may not be the same style of run that A&M or that Arkansas tries to run with Taylor Green, but I think that Arkansas is probably watching a good amount of Notre Dame tape with how they want to utilize their quarterback. If you're Arkansas, defensively, you want to try and put this game on the wide receivers for Texas A&M. Because to this point in the year, man, A&M, with Connor Wegman in the game, they've not really been that explosive. And I think when you look at the Arkansas defensive back group, they're all 6 foot plus, all lengthy, all rangy, all guys that I think you feel pretty good about allowing to play man coverage. There's nobody from A&M that I'm looking at that just makes me overwhelmingly concerned if I'm Arkansas. And so I test that, especially if Conner Weigman's playing quarterback. I say, okay, let's play downhill in the box. Let's stack it up against them, and we'll let the chips fall where they may, man. We will not lose because Le'Veon Moss goes for over 150 yards against us. If we lose because Conner Weigman found a way to beat us deep, or Marcel Reed found a way to beat us deep. And that's kind of the question here. Which offense is able to be more dynamic? I think for Arkansas, the answer is pretty clear with Taylor Green and what he does. I think for A&M, the answer is a lot more murky. And when you talk about your offense being dynamic, it really does come back to the quarterback for me. Like when you see Marcel Reed back there for the Aggies, they're calling quarterback draw. They're getting him on the perimeter. He's making something out of nothing. Like there's just sort of that hold your breath factor when he's back there playing quarterback for them. And Conner Weigman, kind of the same thing we said about what Jackson Arnold and Michael Hawkins Jr. situation is. Conner Weigman probably looks better at a pro day. Conner Weigman may look better out there throwing the ball around with the shorts and a T-shirt on. But in 11-on-11, with the offense you're running, I think Marcel Reed needs to be the guy for A&M. Now, again, it's all unofficial. Mike Elko said that they're not going to decide until game time. I think Marcel Reed has to play quarterback for A&M. If Marcel Reed is not the guy for A&M in this game, give me Arkansas money line. All right, now if he is playing quarterback, I may feel a little bit different about that. But with this being a prediction, we're not going to ride the fence. We're not going to do if Marcel Reed plays, we pick A&M. If he doesn't, we pick Arkansas. We're just going to give you our pick, let the chips fall where they may. We are Marcel Reed stands, and that would absolutely be a factor in this game. But you don't get to ride the fence in this one. I'm taking Arkansas to capitalize on A&M's struggles in space, and I think Arkansas and Taylor Green have a good enough day offensively. I think Taylor Green's legs factor in a massive way. I think Jaquindon Jackson goes over 100 yards. Give me Arkansas. Final score 30-24 in Jerry World. So with Arkansas being a dog, we will take Arkansas to win, obviously, to cover. But golly, dude, I love watching Marcel Reed play football. That probably won't make the one-off clip that we put on YouTube for y'all to watch and consume and comment about after we're right or wrong. But golly, dude, that guy, he's the future in College Station. If it's not this game that we realize that, it could be the second half of this game that gets realized, but he is the guy. He should be the starting quarterback for them going forward. And I feel just fine saying that and shouting that from the rooftops. Nothing against Conner Weigman, but the way the system is, what he brings to the table, Marcel Reed gives them the best chance to win football games. And Mike Elko's a smart guy. I know he went to Penn. He didn't go to Cornell, but he did go to Penn. And I think he's intelligent. He'll figure that out. One more game to break down here for us. You got Louisville, not Louisville. Louisville going to South Bend, Indiana to play Notre Dame. Notre Dame's 6.5-point favorite, 3:30 Eastern. It's on Peacock. This will be very, very telling for us about who Notre Dame is. Because I feel about Notre Dame the same way that I think most folks felt about Slim Shady for a long time. Well, the real Fighting Irish, please stand up, man. Please, because they've been up and down all over this season. Against A&M, I'm like, they're a college football playoff team. Don't even worry about Notre Dame the rest of the way. And then they play NIU, and they lose that one, and you're like, where's Notre Dame? I don't even know what planet is Notre Dame on today. And then they go and play Purdue, and you're like, okay. Just a little letdown. We're back. Okay, we're back rolling if we're the Fighting Irish. And then you play Miami of Ohio, the U of Ohio, if you will, and just looks sloppy, man. Just very, very sloppy. And they found a way to win the game, and the box score wasn't really all that close, but we got special teams miscues. We got poor decisions on offense. We're struggling, man. Notre Dame also a little bit dinged up on defense. You hate that for them. This game last year now was the game that really soured the season for Notre Dame when they went to Louisville. And I think there's enough people on this roster still from that squad last year. Riley Leonard wasn't there. Bo Collins wasn't there. But still, there's enough guys a part of this Marcus Freeman team from last year where you would hope they remember that and hope that feels personal as Louisville comes to South Bend. Now, Louisville, very quietly, 3-0. Tyler Shuck, everyone's going to make an age joke about that dude, so we'll leave that there. Been playing college football a long time, now on his third school. More power to you. Wear a helmet as long as you possibly can. helmets over cubicles all day, because one day they will put you in a cubicle no matter how long you play college football or play in the NFL. The Brom squad, top 15 team right now. All right, so just keep an eye on the cards. They've been explosive offensively, averaging 12 yards a pass. This is a bit of a different outfit from the team last year that beat Notre Dame, offensively at least, but still 79% production on defense that gave Sam Hartman and company trouble last year from Notre Dame. Now also, different scheme offensively, just making sure we're on the same page, but that defense now had some success against the Fighting Irish. Now the thing, if you're Notre Dame now that you want to attack, is the part of the defense that hasn't had success to this point in the year if you're Louisville. Like that secondary, a little bit iffy. Kind of like, it's kind of like milk that's a few days past the expiration date. You can try it if you want to, but I wouldn't put a lot of stock into it. I wouldn't make it the drink of dinner, if you will. Georgia Tech got some explosive against them. Now Haynes King, I think, is a solid quarterback. I think we've seen Georgia Tech be a solid outfit offensively, but like for them to have over 300 yards passing, that is the spot now. If I'm Mike Denbrock, with my offense last year from LSU that averaged the most yards per pass in college football, like I want to attack that. I need to attack that. The unfortunate reality for Notre Dame is offensively, that's where they've struggled. They've had 5.9 yards a pass this year for Notre Dame. Bad for, 104th in the country. Notice I did not say good for. Bad for, 104th in the country. If you're Riley Leonard and you want to announce yourself as the guy at Notre Dame, the A&M game was massive. Obviously, it was huge for the approval rating, all those things. All those vibes were lost after the NIU game. If you want to kind of regain momentum, regain some juice overall, like this is the game to do it. Because I'm telling you, there will be shots to be had. And I think Notre Dame, offensively, they've got some weapons that can stretch the field, but you got to put it together. It doesn't matter who you have in the receiving core if you can't maximize the vertical game at quarterback, which was always kind of our question coming into the season around Riley Leonard. Prove us wrong. Prove us wrong in this game as you have Louisville coming to town that, again, is not any slouch of an opponent when it comes to how they're ranked nationally. I think when it comes to how they want to set it up, if you're Notre Dame, it's been very clear what they do well. Run the football, especially with Riley Leonard. Another great day on the ground for Leonard last week against Miami of Ohio. If you can command enough attention from those safeties to make those shots deep even more wide open, that's going to be the whole game plan, I think. I think it is Riley Leonard on the ground, Jeremiah Love on the ground, ideally on the perimeter as well, the do-it-all back for Notre Dame. But you do that until you can't anymore. And I think Louisville will pretty quickly sell out to try and stop that. Now, here's a fun battle throughout this game, matchup-wise. Louisville's wide receiving core against this Notre Dame secondary. Louisville's got some guys now, like Ja'Cory Brooks, if that name sounds familiar, was previously at Alabama, had a solid season so far for the Cards, had an acrobatic catch this past week against Georgia Tech for a touchdown. Notre Dame, defensively, they've been pretty clear. We like our guys in man coverage. And when you look at who they have in the secondary, it's pretty easy to see why. Benjamin Morrison, one of the best corners in college football. Xavier Watts, one of the best safeties in college football. They're going to let those dudes play. They feel very good about putting them out on the island and letting them be them. So I think the thing to watch here, if you're Louisville, I don't think it'll be a trenches game so much offensively for them. I would be very surprised if we saw Louisville come out there and run it 35 times. I think it'll be a lot more of the underneath pass game, especially man coverage. You'll see a lot of those crossing routes. Louisville ate greedy this past week in that same kind of game plan. Tyler Shuck, 8 touchdowns, no picks, 65% completion percentage. He's been dialed in. So if you're Notre Dame now, again, the man coverage part of things, but even more specifically, trying to negate the catch and run side of things. That's where Louisville, I think, can really, really hurt you. So I think in this game now, it is very possible that the Riley Leonard ground game operation just takes the air out of the game. It's in South Bend, and that's how they win the football game. That's 100% possible. I think it's also very possible Notre Dame kind of snaps back to reality. Oh, there goes gravity. A lot of Eminem references this prediction. We roll on, though. The thing for me with Notre Dame is there's just been a lot of symptoms. A lot of symptoms of offensive struggles, of them looking sloppy, of Riley Leonard really struggling to maximize the vertical components of this offense. And at some point, you get enough symptoms, at some point you're sick. And I think Notre Dame in this game against a good Louisville team, I think we're going to see that they're sick. And I hate that because I love Marcus Freeman. He is one of my favorite people in college football. But I think Louisville goes into South Bend and for the second year in a row beats Notre Dame, final score 28-24. So, again, we hate that for Marcus Freeman, hate that for the Irish, but it is what it is, and I think Louisville ends up winning that football game. Hey, I appreciate everyone dialed in, man. Again, make sure you're subscribed. Those are our predictions for Prediction Tuesday of Week 5 of the college football season. But you look at that slate, there's a few more we got to get to. So we'll have more of those for you throughout the week. Subscribe to the channel. Again, like I mentioned, subscribe to the podcast feed, The Hard Count with J.D. Pickell, Apple and Spotify is where you can get them. No judgment now. No judgment, whatever your Spotify wrap looks like. But if you want to have the Hard Count in your Spotify wrapped, now's the time to get that roll. Okay? Golly. Again, this is one of those weeks. This is one of those slates that you look up and down and say, this is college football at its finest. There's a lot of great slates ahead of us, but this one's going to be special. You only get so many now. Got to make them all count. Don't look ahead to October. Look ahead to November. They're going to get here, but this weekend is going to be a lot of fun, a special slate, and we're excited to enjoy the heck out of it with y'all. All right? JD also picked Notre Dame to lose to Texas A&M. I did not, actually. We had Notre Dame. Just had to keep the live chat in check there really quick. For Nick Brake on the ones and twos, myself, JD Pickell, we appreciate y'all. We love y'all. We're grateful for y'all. We're going to keep this party rolling, and we will see y'all next time.